want to especially thank you for staying with us on this special day in the history of this state that we're having the governorship election. It's a wonderful day, but then again, it is one that will define the political landscape, particularly in this state and by extension all over Nigeria, especially when you look at it from the angle that this is one election that is characterized by the challenge of fighting off the COVID-19 pandemic, which has been in many ways nasty. Again, this election will change, hopefully, the narrative as far as our democratic process is concerned. I'm joined by two gentlemen to help us establish certain trajectories for the next set of conversations that we'll be having on the program this morning. Let's recall quickly that before the election, which is much earlier, the Independent National Electoral Commission had released a set of guidelines to help create a pathway and then, of course, give insights into how this election will go. And these guidelines were very clear from the ground up. However, we want to interface that with the reality that we have on the ground as it stands right now. Of course, in the last 2 hours, we've ensured we brought you up to speed as to what the field is like this morning, what is happening across the state regarding this very, very crucial election. Professor Anthony Ijewere, Professor of Business Administration, is still with us live in our studio this morning. However, we're joined by another gentleman to help us lend a voice to this very important discussion. Aigbe Omoyi is Senior Programs Officer, Center for Democracy and Development. He's joining us to discuss the 2020, I should say, state election here. It's so good to have you join us on the program this morning. I'm going to start with you, and then I'll come to Professor Ijewere. When we started planning this whole election process, INEC made it clear that this is going to be different from all other elections we had in this country, particularly amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. When we interface that with what we're seeing on the field today, are we recording appreciable success?
Yes, we are, because this is the first time ever we'll be having a large-scale election amid COVID-19. The first was in Nasarawa State a few weeks ago, where there were small pockets of by-election that took place. So this is the first big election, in quote, that will be running a massive mobilization of voters and ensuring that they comply with COVID-19. Don't forget that after the lockdown was released, people started to return back to their normal lives. Getting them to comply on a day of election is going to be an uphill task for the Commission. However, there's been an high level of awareness, sensitization campaigns. Everybody's talking about it, that the use of face masks was mandatory, the use of hand sanitizers, physical distancing at the queuing center, at the polling unit, and all of the things that will happen is going to be XYZ. INEC has tried to do that. But what we already see is compliance at some polling unit, while in some other polling unit, you see that level of the same life, the usual life we have. But like I said, INEC is trying to enforce those protocols because it's more like a policy it released some 2 months ago, a policy on COVID-19 elections, and all of the things they itemized is going to be enforced, including their own officials having on the PPE, the personal protective equipment, having methylated spirit to clean up the smart card reader where you have the fingerprint authentication point. For every voter that goes through the machine, they need to clean, they need to wipe it out, they need to swipe it with cotton wool to make sure that if there are traces of droplets on
sanitized.
That, yes, you have to, not just hand sanitization. I mean, using methylated spirit to swipe that.
For every time it is used, right?
For every time a voter comes in. So the question is for us to be able to see, are they following those?
I was just going to ask you a question along that same line. Why do we have disparity in compliance? At one point, there's some appreciable compliance. Then at another point, it will appear, as you say, to use your word, is same old, same old.
Yeah, like I said, people have returned to their normal.
Regardless of the guidelines provided by INEC.
Regardless of the guidelines provided. People also think that COVID-19 protocol is to deprive them from voting. And for people who may want to vote a particular party, may think that because XYZ belongs to another party, you are using this as a strategy to deprive us of voting.
Wonderful point you're making, but we just want to throw in something from one of our reporters on the field, Deborah Ogbefon, from Ogida Motor Park, with 3 units, 1 to 6 EDO accreditation and voting ongoing right now. She says at that point, that appears to be some level of success, and we are hoping that that is what is replicated across every other point or units where we have this exercise going on across the states this morning. Recall, Deborah had joined us earlier to also bring us up to speed as to development regarding where she was at that time.
As you record,
Prof, we're coming to you now. We had seen, particularly in the last couple of weeks leading to the election, so much of excitement in town. Prospective voters getting excited, looking forward to today, which of course is the D-Day apparently. Would you say that excitement is rubbing off on what we are seeing today in terms of turnout of voters?
Well, from what we have seen so far, I think many of the polling stations, the number of voters we have seen, you know, I would say is 60 to 40 ratio. What do I mean by that? It means where we have a lot of voters is about 40%. You know, where we have fewer voters is about 60%. So if you go by that, it means voters, there seems to be some apathy. You know, but like Duke Okosun said, maybe because it has just started, some people are yet to leave their various locations. Let's hope that is the case. As events you know, unfold, then we are going to know if people are really serious or not. But I think generally residents of Edo State have been getting excited. They've been excited. They've been warming up to ensure that they participate in this election based on discussions one I've had with friends and based on discussions.
Prof, I would apologize for having to interrupt you briefly. I'll come back to you in a bit, but we have live field real time coming through now. An eyewitness report says card readers are not working at Uhen Ward 3 of your Northeast local government area, and they are doing manual accreditation. So it will appear we already have an incident there. Let's see how those who are saddled with that responsibility will find ways to run circles around it, because this is one of the several issues that some persons had been apprehensive about leading up to the election. But Prof, you were just making a point about voter turnout a while ago, and you said a couple of things. But political pundits over time have said, where there's low turnout of voters, for example, it could make it easier for certain interest groups to rig elections. Is there any truth in that?
Well, not really, because at the end of the day, for example, those that Edo people that are registered for this election, there are about 2.2 million. But those who actually went to collect their PVC is about 1.2 million. So if you go by that statistics, it means people are really not, you know, happily involved in the whole exercise. And some of us are not surprised because some reasons could be adduced to this. If in the past, where voters have seen what is going on, especially in the presidential election of last year and other elections that took place last year, and you know, the results of the election is not what some voters expected. You know, that apathy will be there. You know, so otherwise, democracy is supposed to be a culture, a tradition that people will be interested, you know, to participate in. It's like saying, hey, it's like what you have in the U.S. You see the fun fair that goes with campaigns, that goes with voting and all that. You know, people are excited to participate. But in Nigeria, the problem voters have is that will our vote count? You know, that is the issue. And you see a scenario, many scenarios, whereby voters will cast their vote and they will expect a particular candidate to win. Before you know it, the court will not decide who wins the election. So if you put all these into consideration, then you will not be surprised why some voters are not so interested in participation. Like the earlier reports, some were even playing ball. You know, some friends even invited other friends, and they are enjoying themselves, drinking beer and having fun. It's because of what they experienced in the past. And that brings to question the issue of INEC. And you see, INEC, as an institution, they have a major role to play to make election in Nigeria interesting. Because I we just heard from one report just now, that from one of the voting centers, that in this election that the smart card reader, you know, is still having problem when they are just dealing with one state and one state alone. No, when is INEC going to learn its lessons? You see, these are issues. And this is why I said earlier in this program that there ought to be electoral reform. If there's electoral reform, all the institutions will sit up and voters will be happy to participate fully in the exercise. So this is my take in the whole thing. You know, not until we start to respect the rule of law, you know, and let the court decide who actually won the election, and then we won't have this problem.
I want to talk to Omoyi about these similar issues. A lot of persons before now, the fear they expressed was the issue of vote buying. They thought money again, as we had seen in previous elections, would play a big role in swaying the interests of voters in certain directions. Have we been able to work hard enough to ensure we forestall that occurrence?
Well, in the report we released 2 days ago at the Center for Democracy and Development in Abuja, because our situation room is domiciled at Transcorp Hilton in Abuja, we had amplified that vote buying was going to be like a huge occurrence in this election. Again, most voters we had engaging. Again, just to also mention, we had a pre-election assessment of the elections of EDO, which we did some 2 months ago. And what we discovered was that majority of voters, let me not use the word majority because I cannot quantify it, because it's 1.7 million collected PVC, 1.7 million voters collected PVC. Right. So we didn't speak to even 200 people, so we cannot justify that. But within the 200 we spoke to, in the city of Benin, majority tend to have this very appetite look about the election. So, you know, this I don't care, lackadaisical attitude that not them, not be us. So the elections are no longer playing the role of it should play in a democratic setting, where it is the only platform to change leadership. It's the only platform to make who you want to rule you in the next 4 years happen. So what is happening is, because apparently, like Prof was talking about a few minutes ago, that when you voted some years ago, and it didn't play out the way it should go, there's a likelihood that your morale to come out in another election will fall. But again, there's been some level of improvement in the electoral circle. Whether we like it or not, there's been some consistent improvement. In 2011 and co, the improvement 7, 11, 15, and 19, even though we went a step forward, we took one step backward, we took another one on. Vote buying is almost like a recurring decimal in our political landscape in Nigeria today. However, what INEC has done, if your media guys were on the ground, they could check. At every polling unit, there is a layout that is different. Okay. They've barricaded particularly the place of the cubicle has been barricaded. The idea was that this incentivized the voter from selling his vote. You know what is called see and buy. What is see and buy? When somebody goes to the cubicle to vote, the person stylishly shows the ballot paper to a party agent who sees and then buy, and there is a network of payers in another location. So what INEC has done is to make that C to cut it off. So what you do, if you are not able to show your ballot, don't forget, you cannot take your smartphones, camera phones to the voting cubicle, not the polling unit, to the voting cubicle. So you cannot snap that your vote. That has reduced, nosedive the process of vote buying. But what people now do is that you come and pay before we go. That may have informed why majority of people are sitting at home. Again, there was a downpour.
We're going to push that narrative quickly, but let's join Efosa Wangwe, who is live with us this morning. Efosa, good morning.
Good morning, Senator.
This is Uyi, by the way.
Okay, Uyi.
Yes, good morning. Good to have you on the program. Please, you want to let us in on what the pulse is like where you are.
I want to report on some of the areas I just visited. It took our word to be precise. I just visited Ward 1, Unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so far, the voting is going on smoothly. And one unique thing I observed is that the COVID-19 protocol was being adhered to. Sanitizers were being provided. The temperature taking machine, the observed was being done. And the voters, security personnel, and INEC officials all were fully kitted with their face mask. So far, so good. There's nothing disturbing. So I'm heading towards the Kada area now.
Okay. So hope you let us in on developments as you make progress.
No problem.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, that was Efosa Wangwe letting us in on developments regarding the areas he has covered so far, and he says he's heading to Okada, where he would also bring us more reports as to how election is progressing. He talked about America. We're told America has had a kind of democracy that has evolved for over 20 decades, well over 200 years. But here we are doing about 21 years or something of uninterrupted democracy. Are we getting ahead of ourselves here?
Well, you know, sometimes I avoid some comparative analysis, particularly when you have to do with developed democracies and learning democracies. In the 2016 election in the United States, till today, there's contestation on what happened, that the election was massively interfered with by Russia and elsewhere.
So other foreign interests.
So, exactly. So that is happening, and if you follow the American elections that is upcoming November you are going to see that democracy in America is also nosediving. So all around the world, so Nigeria tends to be having its own course. I think that in following up with the American model, there's early voting in America. You can send your vote far ahead of time with the yes poster, and people in Nigeria can actually vote in an election in America. Well, Americans elsewhere outside of the country can vote. That we haven't gone to that point yet. Even though South Africa here has the model where you can vote electronically and you can vote diaspora voting. We are still working towards something. But in Nigeria, learning from taking everything in that this is the way to go, it's not going to work for us. We need to develop our own model that works for us. In Mali, the 2018 in Mali election, you will see, not that you will see, I saw, far away in the desert, far away in the forest, party officials, the electoral management officials, on a motorcycle, riding alone with ballot box, ballot papers, and voter register on the motorcycle. And I kept asking, are they not afraid of being attacked? And they said, no, it's no big deal. Election is not a do or die. And then I had to go further to ask, but people are just in a market. There is market happening in Mali. It's not in America. It's not in the UK. It's in Mali. Elections are happening. People are selling. They come in, they vote, they go back. In Sierra Leone, everything is working according to the normal. But election in Nigeria is so expensive, because if we must address the reform that we all talk about, we must there address from the very up. Political offices should not be seen as the most incentive. In the American model, for example, the US president earned peanuts compared to musicians. In the American model, if Barack Obama buys fish in White House, he pays for it by himself. Whereas in Nigeria, Once you are elected a president or a governor or whatever, the state resources is used to drive everything you do. How can you then begin to think about strengthening an electoral process when the gain from that, the end of the election is more beneficial, so you do everything to secure the election and get a vote and get everything done. So we must begin to think about reducing that almighty political office to be an office of service. Then we can go. The American president is a servant of the American people, but we can't really say that in Nigeria.
Okay, Prof, I want you to lend your voice here. Okay. Since 1999, we've had experience, I mean, we've interfaced with democracy uninterrupted, and that's a good thing, really. But again, there's the reality that our elections right from 1999 till date have essentially, or for the most part, been marred by violence, palpable violence, voter apathy. In recent times, the so-called voter inducement, for example. These are all elements playing out. Some persons like yourself will blame it on leadership across political divide, for example. Don't we need more than leadership to fix this?
You see, before I address that question, I want to just make a small parallel. You see, when a man is hungry and you perceive the aroma of the food being made from the kitchen, you get excited, you know, because you know that food is going to be good, you know. So by implication, what am I talking about? It's simple. You see, if democracy has been flowing, you know, the tenets of democracy is being respected, you know, there are electoral reforms, and everybody's keen into that electoral reform, irrespective of who you are. You know, when the president have a policy concerning the country, and he brings in even opposition people to help him, you know, organize the economy of the country, help him organize the management of the resources of the country, you know, then everybody will believe that, oh, democracy is just to bring in people that will lead the country. And that brings to the question of leadership. What's the character of the leader? Like my pastor said, Pastor James Chumba of Heaven Intervention Fire Ministry, he said basically that the character of a man, you know, is shown in his outward behavior, you know, and by application it's clear. You see, it's what you sow you are going to reap. You know, so if there's no serious electoral reform to strengthen the political institutions, you know, then we are going to have problems. What is the role of security agents? Are they actually playing their role, you know, to ensure that voters behave themselves, to ensure that election is free and fair, or are they colluding? You know, these are questions that must be answered. What about the voters? Are they be sensitized enough? Have they been given hope that, hey, when I go out there to vote, my vote will count? These are the issues. The issue of godfatherism, is it still there? You know, are people being sponsored in an election, and at the end of the day, when they get into office, they must satisfy the needs and wants of the godfather? You know, these are the issues. Are the basic needs of Nigerians met? In other words,
those are questions we must answer while we're having this discussion. But Best Tumberia, I understand, is ready for us now. Best, thank you for staying with us on the program. So quickly, I want to give us information as regards what's happening where you are. Hello, Best. Good morning. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm with you, Uyi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Very well then. We're right now at Garrick Memorial School ground, one of the voting centers in Ward 1 of Wejo local government area. Actually, this place to have 4 polling units, unit 18, 19, 20, and 21. Although voting did not start in earnest by 8:30, as announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission. But I can tell you that the turnout is quite impressive. But some persons, particularly the observers, are quite worried. Look at, yes, I'm going to show you very shortly now. Those who are on queue, yes, you can see it now. These are the eligible voters who have actually queued up. And I'm sure you can testify yourself that the issue of social distancing is not being adhered to here. Like UK, the INEC officials, ad hoc staff, were not dispatched early enough because they said after they were trained, they were supposed to be given some stipends. And then they waited till this morning. They were not given, in addition to 1,000 naira that was approved for them for lunch, maybe to avoid them being induced by those who may want to induce them. And then they were agitating and saying that if they don't give them the money, they were not willing to leave Georgida at that time. Don't forget that Georgida is the local government collation center of INEC in Oredo, and that center is also the INEC RAC center, which is the registration area centers where, of course, you are going to take these materials from. For a while ago, I put a phone call through to a colleague that is there. He said they are about to comment. That's about 5 minutes ago. So that's the situation at the moment.
Thank you, Best. We appreciate it. So we'll keep in touch with you for live updates.
I'll get back later.
All right, thank you. So let's join parts quickly now. Who is sending in update 2, talking about reactions of voters on the election process at Mokwa Primary School, Ward 4. That's somewhere within Oedo, by the way.
I have cast my vote unit 21 here in Mokwa Primary School. From my own personal observation, there is no fracas, no persuasion, no inducement, no harassment to any voter. All that you have come here to do, and I believe that every eligible voter is allowed to vote the candidate of his choice. To me, so far, so good. Very peaceful and practice-free.
Your name was? Your name?
My name is Ezekiel Pius M.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you voted?
I've voted. I've exercised my franchise as required by the law. I moved from my place as early as 5:30 to this place, Mokwa Primary School, to cast my vote as required by the law, and I've done that. No inducement of any kind. I did it according to my personal will, and I voted the candidate of my choice, the person I feel that can deliver. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Come on for short, Oga.
Just to be clear, Patience Sagiwa sent in that report from Mokwa Primary School, Ward 4, where the state governor is expected to be voting this morning. Let's go to A2 Central now, where voters turn out, where we understand that Ward 4, Obona turnout is impressive. Security personnel on the ground while accreditation is ongoing. So let's join McDonald Runaka quickly.
You are very stupid.
Okay, we understand Ferdinand Osakwe is joining us also this morning to let us have a feel of what the developments are like, where it is Watu in Obedu Primary School and Ivwe Primary School, large turnout of voters, we understand, and annex staff materials arrived before 8 a.m. and accreditation and voting began by 8:30 a.m. John Abawa is live for us in Igobazua, and he says voting is ongoing in Edo National College, Igobazua, and it's been smooth. However, voters slumped and disrupted the process, and we hope that very sad development will not become a clog in the wheel of progress as far as voting is concerned at National College in Igobazua. But there's something very striking from the reports by Ferdinand Osakwe, somewhere in Edo Central, Uromi precisely, where he took the bahau that materials came at 8 o'clock this morning, and 30 minutes down the line, which was 8:30, accreditation has started. Prof, I'm very sure that's ideally what the situation should be across the state.
Exactly, exactly. You know, orderliness. You see, and by the time you start seeing confusion in polling stations, like I keep saying, the politicians themselves are responsible.
What does that say about the kind of system we operate? Doesn't it again reinforce the belief by many people that individuals in this country, for the better part, are stronger than the system itself?
Yes, yes. You see, when you want to have a control over an individual, you make the person hungry. And when you make the person hungry, then whatever you say, the person flows with you. So by implication, they know that there's high level of unemployment. They know that the average Nigerian cannot meet up with his basic needs of life, and therefore they just throw some crumbs from the table on the floor, and people rush for it. Why? Because people need to survive. And how much are we even talking about? But again, it's not their fault. The youth unemployment, graduate youth unemployment, for example, 59.8%, and we don't want to even talk about though at the lower level. You know, and so politicians capitalize on these individuals and force our youth to do things ordinarily that they wouldn't like to do in view of the situation they found themselves. And that is why we are saying it is not enough for government to set up institutions, INEC and co-organize elections, but have you taken care of the fundamentals? Have you? It's like what one of the governors is doing. You know, industrializing the state. And by doing that, you are trying to create employment, you are trying to whip up the economy. And when you do that, individuals, youth will key into it. The youth will now believe there's a future, that when they graduate from the university, they have opportunity.
But have we not been neglecting this role over time? Have we not neglected it for too long, and now we are seeing the consequences?
Sorry, who are the we you are referring to?
I mean, leadership, the country, governments over time.
Yes, the government. You know, I was making a point earlier that if we want democracy to thrive in this country, there are some barometers, there are some indicators that have to be in place. One, what is the state of employment of the people? You know, what is INEC? What is the role of INEC? Have they been doing their job creditably? Have their activity been challenged in court and it was successful? The judiciary, are they playing their role effectively? Do we have electoral reform that will correct all these problems and ensure that election is free and fair? You see, democracy is supposed to be a beauty in itself, if it's well organized. But what we are seeing here is that they are discouraging people from recognizing the beauty of democracy. If the definition is anything to go by, government by the people for the people, you know, people like to participate. Like we watched on CNN, American Democracy. My discussant here was making a point earlier. Oh, Americans also have their problems and all. Yes, but fundamentally, I think they have taken care of their democracy. You know, there's no system that is perfect. We are going to, but in our own case, the fundamentals of it have not been taken care of. And if you have not been taken care of, how do we make progress?
I can assure you, Prof.
Can you still imagine a card reader is still having problems at the development of
those are some of the those are part of the fundamentals I'm sure you're referring to,
yes,
which we are going to spend at least the next 30 minutes talking about on the show this morning. But let me talk to Iwe again quickly about some of these issues. There are those who say, look, we're at a point in this country where we're hearing about violence and people committing infractions as far as elections are concerned. Now, against that backdrop, we're not seeing commensurate prosecution on the part of the relevant authorities. We're not seeing people who have been arrested, investigated, prosecuted, and even jailed. Some people say, even though we have seen just a few, we need to see more of these persons being brought to book, given the enormity of crimes, of infractions that are committed before, during, and after elections in this country. It's a delicate balance, but how do we make sense of it?
For civil society groups, which I represent, we've always articulated that INEC is overburdened. INEC should be unbundled. INEC can be responsible for registration of political parties, conduct elections, prosecute electoral offenders, and all the other very many things they do. Elsewhere in Francophone countries in Africa, you see there are three institutions. There's those who are responsible for party registration. There are those who are responsible for voter registration. The CVRO, where INEC is doing, as an agency responsible for that. It will be the duty of INEC to then concentrate on providing the atmosphere as an umpire to conduct elections. So what is happening in the state of Nigeria is that INEC we need to unbundle, free INEC off. INEC cannot be responsible for prosecution of electoral offenders. The police in 2019 election said to us openly that they did arrest a lot of electoral offenders.
We want to talk about those arrests and what happened going forward, but we understand in the meantime that APC governorship candidate Pastor Sage Zeyamo has just cast his vote, or at least is in the middle of casting his vote. So we'll continue to look at the development for you as all of these events unfold this morning. It is Edo State 2020 governorship election, and we're bringing you all of the issues so we can begin to articulate the challenges we're dealing with and the enormity of all of them.
Destiny. Which one? What? This. Wait, let me show you the yes. It's not bad for you.
I really want to get
Look up, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Don't look like that.
Don't play it like that. Display it to us, yeah.
It's okay, it's okay.
It's okay. Thank you.
We have a report coming from Omowa, Jonah, at this point. Let's have a feel of that. Jonah Mowa is at EDO National College in Igobazua, we understand as of here southwest, where he said the exercise had largely been smooth until the voter slumped and disrupted the process. Okay, let me return to my guest in the studio. Agbe was making a point a while ago about some persons who were said to have been arrested by the police in connection with electoral offenses.
Yes, and those files were handed over to INEC. It is INEC's constitutional responsibility to do the prosecution. But I think there should be an electoral offences commission, which is one of the things we are already advocating for.
Away from the already existing structure.
Yes, you need an entity whose responsibility will be to prosecute electoral offences so that they can focus. The idea is focus. So this would be like a judicial panel or whatever, if it's constitutional, which is better, because ad hoc committees are never effective, because someone determines who heads and anyhow. So the Electoral Offences Commission will then be saddled with responsibility. One of the ways you then rate them is the number of prosecution they made. Now you cannot rate INEC with prosecution. You can only now rate INEC by conduct. There's no social distancing. There's no smart car reader. Those are not their only responsibility. INEC responsibility is way too much. We need to begin to advocate. That is one of the reasons why, after this election and ahead of the constitutional amendment, that is already a proposal for the constitution of the 9th Assembly. So it's fundamental. And also to quickly just mention what is happening in some polling units. You see things are going on well, adherent to COVID-19 protocols, and other areas may not. You see, we are all humans. Everyone has their own capacity and otherwise. In majority of polling units that may have arrived late, what happened yesterday may have contributed to it. The heavy downpour of rain was across the state.
We need to talk about how that flooding that came as a result of that rain could have also rubbed off or impacted very adversely the election that we have today in Edo State. Again, Jonah Amowa, who is live for us at Edo National College in Igobazua of your Southwest Local Government area in Edo State, says voting has largely been smooth over there until the voter slumps and disrupted the process. So going forward, I'm sure the question is, how do we get back on track? Because this really is a very crucial or critical disruption to the process in that part of the state. Jonah will keep us up to date as regards development at that place, Edo National College in Igobazua. I want us to also look at issues of how, Prof now, how we can continue to de-emphasize money in politics. People say there's too much of money in politics. But then again, the challenge is democracy isn't cheap, is it?
Yes. No, you see, when you say money and election or money and democracy, we are concentrating on the politicians. But when you are talking about funds needed by INEC, it's a different cup of tea.
So how do we strike a balance across board?
Yes, I think the area of concentration should be the politicians spending so much money during elections. You see, and I keep saying it, when you create an environment where people are hungry, what do you expect? When you throw the crumbs from the table to them, of course they will rush it. So that is where the idea of electoral reform comes in. You know, if this thing was allowed to take place in 2018, I think it would have been history. Because if you look at that electoral reform, it was able to take care of these abnormalities. You know, it corrected a lot of things. You know, and we could still recall that this document was taken to the president 4 times, and it was rejected. You know, so if that has been done, you know, it would have taken care of most of these problems. So, and we cannot erase the idea of money and politics in Nigeria. Money and politics.
So it is here to stay?
Oh, it is here to stay. As long as hunger persists, hunger among the youth persists, as long as there's high unemployment among the youth, you know, it's going to continue. As long as politicians gain, you know, make so much money while in office, it must continue. You know, and that is why they strongly believe that there's so much money there to fight for. So they recruit the youth to help them, you know, achieve their devilish aims. You know, otherwise, how do you explain a situation where you know that you are going for an office to serve the people? You are supposed to be a servant to the people, you know, but we are not seeing that. Why? Because they believe that they've invested money. You know, some will even borrow money. We even heard in some cases, some billionaires will even be sponsoring some candidates. Why do you think that billionaire or millionaire is sponsoring that candidate? Because of what he wants to gain. It's like an investment.
But they say politics is all about interest.
It's like an investment. Yes, you know, I will a bit support what you are saying. According to political scientist Morgan Tao, he say personal interest can vary. He said, but national interest is constant. You know, by implication, he's saying that the country should do everything to ensure that the money politics is discouraged in the system. And how do we discourage money politics from it? It's electoral reform. When there's a good electoral reform, all this idea of buying votes and all that will be a thing of the past. But what we are seeing today is like policy massaging. You know, they're really not doing the correct thing because everybody is having interest. Look, if you tell somebody to go and participate in INEC election now, what comes to his mind first and foremost? I want to go and make money. Not what INEC is going to pay him. He's already calculating what politicians are likely to give to him. So not until we correct this thing.
We're coming back to you, Prof. There's one more question for you just before I return to Aigbe. Edo State Governor and PDP candidates, Mr. Godwin Nogagase Obaseki and his wife, have arrived to Ward 4 at Mokwa Primary School. The governor, we are told, quickly joined the queue to exercise his franchise, even though he is the incumbent governor of the state. I'm sure in the last few seconds you spotted the incumbent governor and PDP governorship candidate, Godwin Obaseki, queued up to also exercise his franchise, just like everyone else accredited to vote this morning. Prof, let me turn to you because we'll continue to bring these updates as they come through for us. Political parties, are they structured enough to also strengthen democratic institutions in this country? Because there's something called internal democracy, for example. They say garbage in, garbage out in computer science. You can't give what you don't have. If these parties don't get it right within their folds, how then do we ultimately expect functional democracy in the larger society?
Thank you. You see, it is very, very interesting what is happening at the at the primaries of the various political parties. From what we have seen so far, is the highest bidder gets the ticket.
Prof, I'm sorry, I would have to interrupt you again because we need to make this as robust as possible. Here, this group of people apprehended by the police for overindulgence, loud music drinking inside a commercial bus along Guselu Lagos Road by 5 Junction. We understand 5 Junction is really police presence intensive this morning, which is also an angle to this discussion we're having, and I will be talking to Agbe briefly about that. So, Prof, you were making a very brilliant point a while ago. You were talking about political parties and their roles as well in democracy.
Yes, if you watch our political parties and how they normally generate their party rep, that is to say those who represented the election during the primary, we discovered that there will be a lot of controversies. The individuals, the players involved, they are normally not, in most cases, not happy with the outcome of the primaries. Why? Because a lot of money flow in the process. So it's like the highest bidder gets the flag bearer becomes the flag bearer of the party. And you see, the primaries at the political level, at the party's level, is very, very important. Because if I have to use money, for example, I'm contesting for any office, I have to use money to get it. What do you expect? I will also ensure that I recoup
whatever you spent.
Yes, whatever I spent. And that money may not be mine. It could be one big businessman that sponsored me, And in the process, by the time I get to office, I have to give him his money back. Either through contract, big contract that will not be executed, either through employment, many other ways to get it. So at the end of the day, you see that the politicians will not be concentrating on giving the dividends of democracy to the people. Rather, be interested in his own pocket and the pocket of the sponsor, or what, if you like, godfather. So by the time you do that, the process of democracy has been altered. In fact, have been bastardized.
And that alteration has a very, very significant
at the end of the day,
implications.
Yes, at the end
not just
for
politicians and their parties, but of course for Nigeria as a whole. But let's talk about security in particular right now. Up until today, for example, we had seen, we heard, potpourri of emotions being expressed as to the heavy presence of security. On the one hand, there are those who feel, well, it's a reassurance that we are safe to go out to cast our votes. Then on the other hand, there are those who saw it as a way of saying, look, this election is going to be quote unquote tough, and as such, take cover. Do the right thing, stay in your house, and stuff like that, right? How do we make sense of this kind of development? Because yesterday, for example, we saw quite a number of the security people across town doing what they now call show of force. All right, help us make sense of this development.
I used to be among those who would criticize the heavy deployment of police officers or security architecture in the standalone elections. Edo is a standalone election.
Obviously.
Don't forget that all around Edo State, from Delta to Kogi to Anambra to Ondo, they are moving normally, so they can come into Edo State. So all of the borders need to be appropriately guided. That's on one side. From my experience observing elections, particularly with obstacle election, shows that if you let's do it small matters. For 3 polling units in Edo State, there are 2,627 polling units in Edo State, times 3. Then the voting point, not just the PU now, the voting point is over 5 or 2,000. If you add that times 3, you are going to have close to about 10,000 police officers without guns. These are the ones at the polling unit we see.
Maybe just with handcuffs.
Maybe if at all. So usually with the baton. But there are others who are guarding critical infrastructure. At the INEC office in Saple Road, there are over 50 police officers there in the last 3 days. At each of the local government office of INEC, there are deployment, let's say 10. Then there are critical infrastructures like the bank, the electricity, and all of that. You see them manning those locations. I came to a conclusion after the meeting with the IGP in Abuja that yes, in an attempt to curtail violence, there are going to be plainclothes police officers. In fact, if every gathering where you see a number of people, there is a likelihood of a policeman with plain clothes listening or gathering information. Don't forget that intelligence is the best way to curtail any form of violence. So there are a lot of plainclothes personnel of the police in Edo State, but they cannot tell you where they are. That's what the CIA does. You never see the budget of the CIA, but they tell you there are 100,000 CIA across the world, but they cannot tell you their location because of the kind of job they do.
I want to come back to you because I see you're loaded on this one, so we're going to give you that chance to vent on it. Let's now join Ameze for APC governorship candidate Pastor Osage Izeyamu's interview.
So far, so good. We want to thank God for very fair weather. This morning it was drizzling and one was a bit worried that it rain. But you can see the sun has come. So the weather is good. And then of course you can also see that it's very peaceful. I'm also happy too that ENEC, they have a thermometer here, so they are checking temperatures. We've also tried to give face masks to our people. We have encouraged them to come in batches so that they don't crowd this place. I think this canopy had to be brought because they try to rain. If not, we want to avoid people coming together in large numbers. But I think the process is good. To make accreditation easy, they have put the list of voters of the world. It's good effect. But here, I have no complaint. I think the process has been okay. The ENEC people came on time. They appear to be very well prepared. I think so far so good.
And as the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Pastor Osage Izeyamu having cast his votes and, of course, letting the public know in on his assessment of the process so far. Thank you so much, Ameze Obai Shagbo, and we hope you stay with us to bring us more updates from your end. You were talking a while ago about many of these issues regarding police presence and security.
So you see, when Prof was talking about vote buying a few minutes ago, this whole thing is like a value chain.
Right.
One aspect not properly done tend to affect another. So because this election is almost like we grab it by all means, either way, there is a likelihood that some persons are going to be involved with some level of violence. Mm-hmm. And in order to make sure that the tension is down, you need to show what they now call the show of force. They did it in Bayelsa, they did it in Kogi, they did it in Osun. They do it everywhere. It's to send some security signal.
That we are proactive.
That we are ready to curtail. That doesn't mean they will do a war zone election. It's just to keep people on. I mentioned Mali a few minutes ago. There is the deployment of police is not crazy. It's not crazy because there is the political position is not. It's not a do-or-die affair, and it's not a money-making venture like we have here. How can someone like permit me and let me not mention any political position, a political position in this country having opportunity to recruit almost 5,000 special advisors? Do you know what that thing means? One individual able to employ 5,000 when he's not a private business person is using government resources to employ those individuals. What that means is that everybody wants to work there, so you get you on board, so we get on board. So, but that is not the way system work. A system must truly work. We must again bring to curtail some of these excesses of expensiveness of governmental institution elections. Why is election expensive? You asked that question a few minutes ago. Elections are expensive because of what they will gain after election. If you lose in Nigerian setting, a winner wins all, a loser loses all. That's not what happened in South Africa, for example. It's by percentile, and you form representative governors. And because of that winner winning all, everybody wants to win. You know, the show of force. Everything must happen. Again, in this, I have seen police officers adequately deployed in the state, even though some are fierce looking, yes. The ones that did the show of force, we are fierce looking. In fact, one actually pointed a gun at me, and it was there because you know when they are in those scenes, you have to keep away from them in order to be safe. But for me, I'm sure he pointed a gun at me. I wasn't wearing this jacket anyway, so that it doesn't look as if
we are wearing it or not.
I was so it doesn't look. I was. So it doesn't look as if I was an observer and was throwing a gun so people don't misinterpret me. So what I'm saying in essence is that they pointed the gun at innocent citizens.
I need to bump in on you quickly because we have someone on the phone for us. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome to the program.
This is Mike calling from Itoha.
Okay, please. By all means,
I'm a voter. I thought here I really want to let you know. I thought that this before I'm following what you are discussing at the studio. As you speak now, there is a mass vote buying. I don't know what the security. They are still showing that you are the cupid and somebody is watching it and taking the people. There is a very fast, very close to the river side of the place. The registration number is BEN 761 FY. That's where they used to enter to go and collect the money. It's something going on here that it's eyesore. It's eyesore.
Where exactly are you? Where exactly are you?
So I don't know.
Hello. At what point did you witness this? Where exactly are you?
I'm here in Itoha Secondary School along Sapler Road.
Okay.
Secondary School along Sapler Road.
So you are saying there's massive vote buying from what you are witnessing?
There's no river there.
Sir?
You're saying there's massive vote buying from what you are witnessing, right?
Yes. Without people hiding it. Before we go there, because it's on your last studio this morning, I was hearing somebody say that the QB that there was a coverage that would disallow the voter to show the particular.
Okay, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you for a favor, and I hope you're kind enough to do it for us. Can you snap a shot of it at least? If you cannot record a video, and send to us. If you can record a video, it will be better. But if at least you can get a shot or two, we will appreciate that. We have the WhatsApp number on air for you since you're watching on television.
I'm speaking at some people, they are even following me, or they are even following me to know what I'm saying.
Okay, so I can imagine. I can imagine. That's a bit risky for you, but we appreciate you coming through for us this morning. That's some real-time updates coming from Itoa Grammar School, I'm sure, somewhere on Sapler Road here in Benin City. And we do hope that we continue to get these real-time updates as they come through for us. The gentleman says it will be a little risky for him to either snap this incident or send recorded video of it, because it will appear some persons are stalking him. That's the risk you have to pay sometimes. I mean, when you do this citizen journalism. But that was very vital as far as this conversation is concerned. And it also helps understand what the environment, what the space, the political space is like this morning across the state. I want us to talk about something, gentlemen, and this has to do with the fact that it will appear, like he said, INEC is overburdened already. We know that. And then people are now saying, let's unbundle. We've heard unbundling of the NNPC, for example, in this country. We are still having that conversation. We have not seen any unbundling really happen. And then you look at the Petroleum Industry Bill, the PIB, for example, which later evolved to become the PIGB, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill. These are, I mean, the National Assembly told us, the Senate in particular, that the reason it moved from PIB to PIGB was to be able to unbundle. If we cannot unbundle these ones, how do we then go ahead to unbundle INEC? I'm asking, Professor.
Well, before I answer that question, let me just reflect back to what my friend said. You know, that the police, the way they are demonstrating and all that, is to give voters assurance and all that, and ensure that the place will be, voting centers will be peaceful. I just beg to differ a little bit, because you see, and it's the same person that told us that Mali, Sierra Leone, you know, a bike man can just carry election materials to stations and nothing happen. Market women can leave what they are selling temporarily, go and vote and come back, and that is the type of system we expect to happen in Nigeria. You know, so you don't correct such problems by getting mobile police or soldiers singing war song, you know, today we die today and all that, like we saw in some clips, you know, some time ago. You know, it's just not the best. You see, you create fear in the people. By the time you create fear in the people will be reluctant out there to go and vote. If our parents will tell their words, I beg, I don't have a child they want to kill you. You know, even though that may not be the intention of the police, the objective of the police is to demonstrate force and say, hey, like if I'm permitted to speak the pidgin language, if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. You know, that's the but to the voters and parents and mature people, they see that as a security threat, and therefore they have to be very careful and not to go out there. And if they don't go out there, then there's a problem. You know, so I think the police should be more civil in handling electoral matters. They should be more civil. They should quietly go to their various booths, filling voting centers, and perform their responsibility. They don't need to show sign of force.
Okay, Prof, we'll come back to you shortly. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, welcome to the program. Quickly, your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Austin Azu, calling you from
Okay, that's Austin Azu. You're reporting from where? All right, great. Go ahead, Austin.
Yes, of course, the situation report at this point in time is that earlier on some adult staff of the National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, protested over their allowances that were not paid to them, and after the protest for a very long time, and that's delayed the process for them to go to their various polling units. Not to leave that, since I'm here at the Geneva Primary School, we have unit 1 to 20, and that's what. Hello, can you hear me? That's what 5.
Okay.
Yes. And currently the process is ongoing smoothly. There are heavy presence of security personnel. And from where I'm standing, I can see the arrival of the NSAGC's protocols. That's the state commandant. Yes, arriving the center here. So to tell you that the place is relatively peaceful. Apart from the issues experienced earlier on, whereby the ad hoc staff of INEC protested over the allowances that were not given to them.
Okay.
So far, so good. The local government has been relatively peaceful, and thing is ongoing in some polling units and in some wards, while others are still waiting. Let me just take you back to Ward 6. Ward 6. At that place, that's Ward 6. Ward 5. Unit 26 and Unit 27. The voters have not started exercising their franchise. That's to say that they have not started voting. So, and the time is 20 minutes past 11 now. So we wonder when they are going to start to cast their vote. So apart from that, and some places whereby they have pockets of argument earlier in the morning, which has been sorted out. And so far, there's no issue has been for them relating to casualty or,
All right, Austin, we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. We'll keep in touch with Austin for more details as we make progress with this discussion we're having this morning. But again, we understand that Ameze Obaisiagbo is rejoining us for an interview on the present situation in Uboko Ward 5 in Orioma local government area.
I'm live here at Unit 26, Uboko Ward 5 in Orioma local government area of Edo State. Voting actually commenced at exactly 8:49 a.m. And of course, as you can see behind me, the process is actually going very smoothly. We have the presence of security agencies right here. International observers are also on the ground. And yes, COVID-19 protocols are being carried out strictly as people are being told to put on their face masks and observe social distancing. We're waiting for the arrival of the Edo State APC governorship candidate in the person of Pastor Osage Ize-Iyamu to come here and, of course, cast his vote at this polling unit. I'm actually here with one of the persons who has actually cast his vote right here at this ward, and I'm going to be talking with him. Sir, how was the voting process?
Perfect. and the things everywhere is moving perfect, and I enjoy the vote, and the COVID-19 social distance was being carried out. As you can see, everywhere is peaceful.
You talked about COVID-19 protocols being, I can't see you with your face mask. What happened?
But there was a social distance.
Let's just put it on record again that the APC governorship candidates in the person of Pastor Sage Zeyamo already had expressed, or rather he has already voted this morning. All right, so events have overtaken that. We're moving forward now. Thank you, by the way, Ameze, for coming through with that update for us this morning. We're joining straight away Ferdinand Osakwe from Arui in Uromi, Esan, Northeast Local Government Area. We understand he has the Speaker of Edo State House of Assembly, Mr. Francis Okiye.
On Easy Calm is a description of what is happening in this century. I've gone around the world this century, and a lot of people came out en masse to exercise the franchise. Not just coming out, but they all came out peacefully. First, they go to identify their names, thereabouts go to accredit themselves, and of course, vote. I'm at Arwe Primary School, where the Speaker of the State House of Assembly has just exercised his own franchise. Mr. Speaker, we saw you doing that. What can you say about the election process so far?
The process has been quite impressive. The commitment and enthusiasm of the electorate is again unprecedented. In terms of conviviality of the environment, the rally got is unequal at the moment. So I'm impressed, and one was almost describing the calmness this morning as an uneasy one, because it was too calm to have been expected. I'm happy that the process is going like most opinion leaders will say. It is not the outcome of the process that matters, but the process that leads to the outcome is more important to us in this nascent democracy. We are packaging democracy, and we believe that we can hit a better future with what is happening. And you can see the turnout is fine. So for now, we have no reason to be apprehensive or panic. It's not about winning, it's about the process. We have seen the machine and the candidates prompt. We hope that we're going to sustain this process till the end of the voting session.
Okay, well, you just heard from the Speaker, the written piece that we've been experiencing so far matters a lot, and the expectation to the general public that this peace will be sustained to the end of the exercise. Ferdinand Osakwe.
Thank you, Ferdinand Osakwe, for bringing us that interview with the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Francis Okiye, this morning from Uromi. Just to also have an idea what's happening there. We understand that Deborah Befon is again joining us this morning to bring us up to speed as to developments around where she is. Remember, we have reporters dispersed across the state this morning from end to end, just to ensure that you understand exactly what the developments are regarding this election. Hello, Deborah. Good morning again.
Good morning, Mr. Tony.
This is Uyi, Deborah. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Yes, Deborah, I can hear you all right. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Just go ahead. Let us have a feel of what it's like where you are.
Okay. I'm right at Oluwa Primary School, Ward 7, in the local government area. In this particular voting center, they have about 7 vote units. I must tell you that at this particular unit and voting center, there's massive turnout of voters. They came out in their country. And the election so far is very peaceful here. Security personnel are on the ground to ensure the safety of those who came out to vote. We also got some information, some disturbing information of monitoring inducement of voters here. But outside this, the situation here is very calm and the process is very orderly. We also visited a few minutes ago We visited some other places. We were at Tipa Garage by 8 o'clock this morning, Ward 4 in the local government area. Materials, INEC officials and security men were on the ground to commence the process of voting. But accreditation and voting did not commence on time as scheduled. We were also at Nigerian Postal Institute in Ward 4, where we observed that INEC officials, materials and voters came on time. They came around, according to information we got, that it came before 7:30 in the morning. But there was this delay commencement of accreditation and voting. They said it was due to the absence of security operations, security men on the ground. So they said they won't commence voting until they are very they are conscious, because they are conscious of their safety in that area. And a policeman or policemen are deployed to that unit. Also visited other areas, voting were just going on peacefully. We're at Okinawa Primary School for 3, grade 7 and 8 in the local government area. In that very unit, we saw that they had shortfall of ballot paper in that unit. That the number of persons that are supposed to vote 989, but they brought only 900 ballot paper. We also at Ude Voting Center, Ward 6, units 1 to 3 in the local government. So far, the process is very peaceful. There is orderliness, and the security men at every polling unit, about 3 of the at least every polling unit has about 3 security men on the ground to ensure the safety of voters. There is COVID-19 strict COVID-19 in some places were visited, but in other places they are not complying with COVID-19 because there's no social distancing. Some of them are not
All right, Deborah Agbefu, we must say thank you for coming through for us this morning. We would have you on standby for us as we continue to make progress into this election. Thank you again, Deborah, for coming through for us with that live update. Deborah is making us understand that she has visited quite a number of places across the local government this morning, including, and very prominent amongst them, Olua Primary School, even though she also mentioned the Tipa Garage within the local government. And she talked about how that, yes, on the one hand, she had witnessed vote buying, which is again recurrent as we begin to understand this morning. And then, of course, she said ultimately it has essentially been